And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, my name's Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Godsforge. This is from Atlas Games, and Godsforge, the theme of this game is Ethereum is the source of magical power. Now you're spellcasters trying to build to get the rest of this Ethereum by building powerful creations using fire, air, water, and earth, because as we all know, those are the only four elements that ever exist anywhere. This is a dice rolling game in which you're going to manipulate your dice, kind of like Yahtzee, to get cards to attack other players with and spells to mess them over with. Here's how it plays. So everyone's going to get a handful of 4 cards here from this deck, the Fate deck at the beginning of the game. Cards are split into 2 types. You have these different creations that you'll be able to play. They might be monsters, they might be things, and you also have spells. What you're going to do on each turn of the game is, first there's the upkeep phase. If you have something in front of you with an upkeep thing on it, this will happen during that time. Then the forge roll will occur. Each player is going to get 4 dice, and you are going to roll them, and you can re-roll 1 die twice or re-roll 2 dice once. And so I'm going to look here. I got a 4, 5, a 6, and a 1. Now, according to the book, the different dice are different elements. And I say according to the book because the book actually spends a long time explaining that 2 is fire, 3 is air, 4 is water, 5 is earth, and that 9 is this, 10 is this, that you can add a 2 and a 3 together at 5, and honestly, they're just the numbers. With the exception of the 1 can be any number you want. And a 6 can be used to, you can just discard a 6, basically to take one of these Veil Stones. Veil Stones can also be used to add or subtract to the numbers that are rolled. So I'm looking here, I need 4 of a kind to play either of these cards, which I'm not doing too badly at, because honestly, I have a 6 and I can turn this into whatever number I want. So, maybe not. This one says 2 even, where I already have, and a 5. I already have that, a 5, 4, and a 6. And this says 2, a 2, and 3 in a row. Well, this could be the 2 and 3 in a row. So you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this into a 2, and then I got 4, 5, 6, and I'll play this. So everyone picks the cards they're going to play, you reveal them. If there's a reveal effect on them, it will show like this. For example, the Jade Clover here says I would gain 3 life and 3 Veil Stones. But I chose to play the Malachite Manticore, so I'm going to put this in front of me. Now if it's a spell, it's going to go off instantly and do something. Like this one here is 4 of a kind. I can immediately pay 3 Veil Stones to deal this damage to all opponents. So I can hit all my opponents for 7 damage. At the end of a turn, no, I'm going to do 7 damage and gain 7 life. Now, at the end of each turn, you are going to do damage to the people next to you, to the person to your left anyway. So here I'm going to do 5 damage to the person to my left. I can also sacrifice this to reduce damage to person's hitting me for 5. So you're going to add together all the different creations you have, their attacks. And so if I have the Shadow Gorgon and the Malachite Manticore here, I'm doing 10 damage, and that person's going to subtract any defensive that they have on theirs. So for example, this Pyrite Golem, they can pay a Veil Stone here to subtract 2 from the damage being done for them. Or this one here, Mithril Armor, just subtracts 3, and you can pay a Veil Stone to subtract another 2. Your hand size also goes up by 1. That's it. You're just going to keep doing it until players go down to 0 damage. When you go down to 0 damage, you're eliminated from the game. However, at that point in time, all other players will take 7 extra damage every attack phase. So the game will come to a close quickly as soon as someone has been eliminated. The last person to stay alive is the winner of the game. Component-wise, the Veil Stones here are nice, although we keep forgetting that they're called Veil Stones. It's kind of a weird thing. The dice are okay quality. They're not fantastic, but my biggest problem with the dice is, why did they make this a 1? Why didn't they just make it a special symbol, like a symbol for the game itself? That's what I would have done, and that way you remember that 1s are wild. It's a simple thing. It might have cost them more money, I guess, but they didn't. This has like some gold printing on it, but it's very boring looking. The art itself is very esoteric. I mean, it's easy to tell which ones are the spells because they have these lines on. And the rest of the art in the game is kind of, I don't know, it almost feels like too cool for school art in a sense. It doesn't really have any kind of theming that I know of. Like, here's a cannon, and then we got the pyrite golem, and then this veilstone beacon. It's like and then a harp with an arm sticking out of a portal. And I don't know. I didn't feel any kind of real strong theming coming out. There's not even that many cards. The cards are okay quality, and everything fits in a plastic insert in the box. So the components are okay. So Godsforge exists in that kind of weird realm sometimes where I'm like, who is this game for exactly? Because this game has that whole, I mean, it's not a bad looking cover, it's a pretty neat looking cover. It has that whole, like, we're for Magic the Gathering players, we're for people who like Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I get that, and the artwork kind of bears that through. But the gameplay itself, it's kind of weird. It's that, first of all, the rules make the dice sound so complicated. I was mind-boggled. I went through and I said, wait a minute. You're just saying the same thing over and over again here. They're like, you can use a 1 as a 2 through 5. You can also use a 1 as a 6. You can also use a 1 as a 3. And I'm like, what? Come on now. You just say that. It's wild. It was just odd how some of the rules were written. Like, they were written so that there was no question, but at the same time, it's very simple. And the game is very simple. So I think that people who like Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering will find this game too easy, maybe, in how it actually plays, not in how the rules are and everything. And people who like simple games will probably not be drawn to this theme. In fact, this theme doesn't really mean anything that I can tell. It's another mage versus mage game for no reason at all. Now, I don't mean all this to sound negative. The gameplay itself is interesting. I like getting the cards and sitting there going, okay, how am I going to accomplish this card? And in fact, there's a rule in the game that if you don't put out any card on your turn, you'll get 4 of the Veilstones. You can just take 4 Veilstones instead of putting out a card. I've never done that. Never. And the reason why is because I can always put out a card. This game is easy. First of all, the 1s are powerful. If you roll a 1, you're getting something, because you can make that 1 anything you want it to be. Then once you start getting Veilstones, and you'll get them, you can manipulate the dice. The things aren't that hard to get. It's so maybe you'll get 4 Veilstones at the beginning of the game, but after that, just stuff starts producing, and it just felt every time I was like, oh, I can build this card. Oh, I can make this card. It just wasn't that complex at all. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think people who want a game like that aren't going to care for this theme. It was okay for me. I liked it, but there's no attraction to me from the theme or the game to want to keep going back to it. I also thought that the deck was a little smaller than I'd like it to be. The whole attacking the person on your left, I had no problem with that. I had no problem with the player elimination either. I'm not normally a big fan of that. But in this particular case, I didn't mind, because as soon as someone dies, the game is 1 or 2 turns from being over. And so as a player elimination game goes, it's fine. So that's Godsforge. It's kind of a mixed bag. I'm not sure who it's for. Not a bad game, but it's one that I would not be surprised to see in bargain bins in a year. Dice Tower Judgment, it's an interesting game, but too simple for me.